Welcome to the DTS version 4 video series. This video is an introduction to TQL version 4.2. The objective of this video is to introduce two new features in version 4.2 of the terminology query language, the for statement and anonymous attributes. Both these features add powerful new capabilities to TQL queries. TQL version 4.2 introduces the for statement, which allows processing of individual concept and term attribute instances. Before 4.2, there was no way to output or edit a specific attribute instance. Consider this query to find all the drugs in Rx norm that have an NDC code that begins with 96. When we run the query, only one concept is found, but 62 lines are printed. All the NDC values are printed for the selected concept. This is because TQL filtering operations, such as the selectors and conditional statements, have an if-any interpretation. If any of the attributes meet the conditions, the concept or term is passed to the associated statement block with all of its attributes. Thus, we see all the NDC properties for each concept in the output. We would like to be able to limit the output to just the desired NDC codes. The new for statement answers this requirement by creating concept and term contexts that only contain a single instance of the named attribute. This makes it possible to perform operations on specific instances of an attribute, such as only printing an NDC if its value starts with 96. Here's a modification of our NDC query using the for statement. The for statement, shown here, takes a single attribute as an argument, in this case the NDC property. The scope of the statement is the following statement or statement block. The effect of the for is that the third line of the query is executed once for each value of the NDC property on the selected concept. So when we run this query, only the specific instance of the NDC that begins with 96 is printed. As shown here, the for statement is usually used in conjunction with a conditional statement, this if, to perform instance-specific filtering. In addition to DTS attributes, the for statement supports TQL attributes such as synonym, property, and association. Here's an example of the for statement using the synonym attribute. We'll run the query. This query only prints the SNOMED synonym that begins with MI, not all the synonyms that existed on the myocardial infarction concept. Besides the print statement, a delete attribute statement, set attribute statement, or update attribute statement can also be used with a for. Here's an example where only instances of myprop whose value begins with old will be deleted. Finally, note that the for statement is only available inside a collection statement and cannot be nested. A for cannot occur within the scope of another for statement. The second new feature in TQL 4.2 is anonymous attributes. An anonymous attribute is an attribute that is referenced by its name, independent of a specific namespace. In this example, the non-namespace qualified attribute code and source implicitly refers to the named attribute found in the SNOMED CT namespace, the namespace specified in the enclosing collection context. If I change the query context from SNOMED CT to all, on the other hand, this attribute form has not been permitted. A similar restriction was present for subset, conset, and term set contexts. In 4.2, the unqualified code and source attribute can be used in these contexts. When the current context is an all namespace, or a subset, conset, or term set context, a non-namespace qualified attribute is called an anonymous attribute. The actual type of the anonymous attribute is not resolved until runtime and is determined relative to the namespace of the current concept or term in the collection. In this query then, for each selected concept in the collection, the existence of a code and source concept property type from the concept's namespace is determined, and if present, its value on the concept is exported. Let's run this query. Here we see 549 concepts from a number of the namespaces in my knowledge base, along with their code and source values. Since TQL cannot know the attribute type, in other words, concept, property, term association, etc., of an anonymous attribute, anonymous attributes usually have a type code specified by a trailing parenthetical. In the current example, the default, a concept property type, was used, but use of a specifier is more likely. Here's an example that uses a concept association. The attribute specifier is the CA in parenthesis following the map to SNOMED attribute name. The full list of type specifiers can be found in the TQL user guide. Anonymous attributes cannot be used in selectors, but they can be used in expressions, in export statements, and output statements like log and print, and in predicates. Their use in expressions includes the displaying form. Here's an example. Here's an anonymous attribute used in the displaying form in this output. All the features outlined here are described in the TQL version 4.2 release notes and the TQL version 4.2 user guide. Version 4.2 is now available from Apelon DTS org and from the Apelon Module Manager download site. Thanks for watching. See our other videos on the Apelon YouTube channel or visit www.apelondts.org for everything DTS.